Good morning, we are now live.
Good morning. I'm Vincent Garnier, the Director General of the FTTH Council Europe. I'm very happy to welcoming you on this webinar titled Sustainability, a Global View from the Fibre-to-the-Home Council Global Alliance. And I will immediately give the floor to the moderator of this session, Juanita, if you want to start.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Vincent. Good morning, colleagues, and welcome to the session. As Vincent mentioned, my name is Juanita Clark. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Digital Council Africa and a member of the Fibre-to-the-Home Council Global Alliance, or the FCGA is probably more how you know it. I look forward to moderating the session this morning. So today we're really excited to present to you our latest market survey themed Sustainability, a Global View. So for those that don't know, the FTTH Council Global Alliance, or FCGA, is a global platform that was created more than a decade ago. And this platform exists for the regions to collaborate and cooperate. And there's 6 regional members that are active. And those members are North America, LATAM, Latin America, MENA, the Middle East and North Africa, ourselves, Sub-Saharan Africa, Europe, and then Asia Pacific. And all these FTTH councils share one common goal, and that's to accelerate the adoption of fiber-to-the-home technologies. And we all act independently, but we've got a strong focus on our regional, activities. But this regional focus gives every single one of the organizations a special strength to adapt their activities to their specific market situation in their area. But the FCGA ensures that all these regional efforts are combined with the power of global cooperation. We often engage with each other. We've got a monthly meeting where we discuss our regions, the activities in our regions, progress within regions. We share thoughts, ideas, and more than that, within the FCGA, the respective councils also exchange studies, information, and of course our latest market developments. So as mentioned, as part of the FCGA efforts, we take on annual studies and initiatives that we believe are of interest to our members and to the industry at large, and often the governments that we engage with. It's a big privilege today to report on the latest body of work that we've done globally, and we're going to today present to you the results of the Global Sustainability Survey. After we present these results, we'll just have a brief panel discussion with the leadership of the FCGA to discuss the regional differences of the results. I just wanted to mention that, of course, because of the time zone differences, Gary Bolton, who's the president and CEO of the Fiber Broadband Association, as well as our colleague from LATAM, cannot be here. There is another session today at 5 p.m. CST. If you want to share that with your colleagues in other parts of the world, they're welcome to attend that. And of course, we're happy to send them a link for that session. So the structure for today's session is that we will start with Vincent Garnier, the Director General of the FTTH Council Europe, and Vincent is also the 2023 Chair of the FCGA. And he's going to walk us through a brief presentation of the result of the survey. And at the conclusion of Vincent's presentation, I will invite all the regional leadership. I'm today joined by Khulud Al-Dorgham from MENA and Rusafia Lam from APAC. And they're going to then join me as we then engage in a panel discussion. Thank you. I really hope you enjoy it. And you're welcome to please make comments in the side chat. Any questions that you type will be picked up by us, and we will then handle that on an ad hoc basis. But please also let us know where you're from, where you're joining from, and which company you represent. But good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm currently in Nairobi in Kenya. So as we say here, Jambo, Karibu, which means welcome, and hello, it's good to have you with us. So with that, Vincent, I'm going to hand over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Ronita, and good morning, everyone. So the objective of this quick survey was to have an understanding as much as possible of the overall organizational awareness about company policies and sustainability goals among our ecosystem. And I would start with a brief presentation of the methodology for this survey. It has been conducted at the end of last year. It concerns both companies which are member of our organization, of the different council, but also more largely, we extended the inquiry, the survey to all contacts within our reach and our database. In total, we had 150 respondents with a good mix between network operators, vendors, and others. Actually, I can share with you a more detailed representation of the breakdown of respondent by geography and by organization type. So as you can see on the left side of this chart, North America and Europe have been well represented. To a lesser extent, Latin America, but in proportion which are quite typical for this kind of survey. The region which are less represented in this survey are MENA, but most importantly, Asia Pacific. So I would say this is the major methodology BA we have in our survey. We've not been able to capture enough answers from the Asia Pacific region, so I would caution any interpretation of the number concerning Asia Pacific, but surely when it comes to Europe, North America, and Latin America, we think we have an interesting representation of what our industry thinks. And also because we were able to capture feedback from both a network operator, which made half of the respondents, a quarter were vendors, and 22% were not defining themselves, so are likely to be either contractors or maybe people being either from network operator or from vendor, but not identifying themselves as such. Now, we have also asked questions which were beyond the theme of sustainability, covering what is now known as being either CSR or ESG. So before we move further, just a quick reminder of what is behind both acronyms. Actually, corporate social responsibility is a concept which started quite a few years ago, which was used to define all areas of importance for a company, for a commercial organization, beyond its core goal to maximize shareholder value and address the needs of its clients. So it was about integration with a larger ecosystem that a company should pay attention to. Its people, the environment, but also the society around the company. At the time of the CSR, it was aspirational. It was about setting up culture, putting these elements on the map. Whereas now we are talking about ESG, environmental, social, and governance, which is something we want to measure in a much more concrete way. So with ESG come metrics, accountability, and these data are increasingly taken into account by investors. When they are defining their investment strategy, they are considering ESG performance of company they want to invest in. So this is where we are now. Additional element we took into account in our survey were concretely reduction of greenhouse gas emission and carbon footprint. On the governance side, the concept of employee advancement, and also to what extent developing and improving sustainability program are put in place. Another element of the survey, which was identifying the different question, was about what you can see here on the slide, the detailed question about employee advancement, the different format of reporting, and how these objectives are clearly defined through targets and initiatives. And before I present to you the main results and the key takeaway from the survey, I would like to launch a poll and to just assess among you whether or not your company have a ESG or CSR strategy. So I hope you can see the poll coming up on your screen. I give you a few seconds to answer the poll. It's very simple. Yes, no, we're working on it, or I don't know. I see that we start to collect answers from the audience. Thanks a lot for your participation. This is great. And I think we are getting close to all participants having answered. I give you a few more seconds, and I will close the poll to share the results back to you. So, okay, let's close the poll. I hope you can see the result. Are we sharing the result? Can someone confirm that to me?
No, we don't. You just have to share them.
Okay, sorry.
Next to the question.
Yeah, I need to get used to the platform. I think we see the result. Yeah, and interestingly, a majority of you are clear about the fact that your organization has a ESG CSR strategy. 23% are working on it, and only a tiny minority is not aware of the situation or has no such strategy. I think the fact that we are presenting this webinar on time zone compatible with Europe participants probably explain this result, and I'll show you later in a few seconds to what extent it matches the result of our survey. So thanks very much for your participation. I'm now moving back to the deck, and I hope. Okay, so yeah, those are two holding slides. So the key finding coming out of this survey are, first, if we try to define the common themes we found across all regions, I must say it was not a very easy exercise because there are big differences between regions. Nevertheless, we have highlighted four things. First one is supporting customer gas emission, greenhouse gas emission reduction program through the life cycle assessment methodology was actually cited by many respondents. The concept of converting from HFC network to FTTH network was also seen as part of the program to improve sustainability. The goal of 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emission by 2030 with a long-term global goal of net zero carbon neutrality by 2040 was also found in a variety of answers. And finally, financial security ranked the lowest in employee deployment initiative across all regions, while health, well-being, safety, ethic, and integrity ranked the highest. So these are for the common takeaway we could see across the board. And when it comes to more specifically ESG and CSR strategy and sustainability, you will see the next chart that Europe is far ahead of other regions. Latin America ranks second, and North America, MENA, and APAC are clearly lagging behind. And here are the results. On the first question we asked to you a few minutes ago, has your company, has your organization an ESG or CSR strategy? Here we see that in North America, 72% of the respondents say no. In Latin America, this is more balanced because an equal proportion say yes compared to the ones saying no at 42-45%. Whereas in Europe, you see the symmetrical picture compared to the situation in North America, where 81% of the respondents declare that yes, they have a ESG or CSR strategy, and that is very much aligned with the result we saw for the audience of today. Only 9% in Europe declare that their organization have no such strategy. The results in MENA are aligned with those of America, although, as I said, in terms of methodology, they are a bit less representative of what's taking place in these regions. Now, to complete the result of this short survey, we have also gathered information coming from other industry research and from reports produced by the different organizations represented today, the different council. The 2022 Gartner Sustainability Opportunity, Risk and Technology Survey shows that 86% of business leaders see sustainability as an investment that protects their organization from disruption. 4 out of 5 leaders see sustainability as helping their organization optimize and reduce costs, and 83% say the sustainability activity directly creates short and long-term value for their organization. That's a little bit in contrast with the result we've seen from the rank and file employee of our industry's organization when we asked them a question about this topic, because they seem to be far less aware of this, at least outside of Europe, far less aware of this question than the leaders which were surveyed by Gartner. And as we are in the ICT industry, the telecom industry, it's very interesting to remind us that our industry is responsible for 3 or 4% of all global carbon emissions. Telecom alone generating 1.6% of all carbon emission. That represents twice the level of emission coming from the aviation industry. And these data come from a 2021 Boston Consulting Group report. So it's an important topic for our industry. And we think as fiber-centric association around the globe that fiber is part of the solution. Clearly, fiber consumes less energy per kilowatt, and fiber material are inherently sustainable. Of course, it's a passive infrastructure, and we'll see that compared to other access network technology, fiber contribute to reduce carbon output. On the graph here, and this is coming from Fiber Broadband Association consumer study of last year, you can see that the emission of CO2 per user, when you compare the different access network technology, fiber to the home, DSL, HFC network, or even wireless 5G fixed wireless access, fiber is by far the one having the lower impact in terms of CO2 emission. And actually, if I combine that with information we have developed us here in Europe, we also see that this kind of picture will only be confirmed if we move towards gigabit type of connectivity. Typically, these numbers reflect the situation and the bandwidth as it is today. If we were to extrapolate the result at 1 gigabit, it would require, for example, HFC network to move to DOCSIS 4 with a much higher electrical consumption, and the difference between CO2 consumption of the different technology will be even more in favor of FTTH. And it's not only direct emission which is important. What we also see is that FTTH can be essential to enable telecom network to contribute indirectly to the reduction of carbon output. This slide shows results once again coming from the Fiber Broadband Association. And what it shows is that typically what we experienced during the pandemic and the lockdown periods is that work from home has a direct impact on the reduction of CO2 emission, and that people are far more likely to work from home if they enjoy a high quality connectivity at home. The graph on the right shows that FTTH subscriber have a higher average day working from home than those which internet access runs on HFC or DSL. So developing a high quality symmetrical FTTH connectivity is one way to trigger a behavior which are directly impacting the reduction of carbon footprint. It's now time for the second poll. So I will try and launch this one. If you bear with me 1 second. You should see now the question and you should be able to answer them. Does your company have a greenhouse gas emission target? Yes, no, I don't know. I'll let you a few seconds to answer this, to answer the poll. I can see that we have 60% of the audience now, 70% voted. Give you a couple of seconds to complete the voting process. Thanks so much for engaging so rapidly with us. I think we are nearly there. I will close the poll and share the results. So what we see is that in coherence with your previous answer, I would say 50% of you say that your company has this target. For 30% of you, no, and I don't know, 20%. I think we are quite coherent with what we had on ESG and CSR policy, and it shows that not only the majority of the respondents declare that they have a policy, but also are aware of specific target when it comes to carbon footprint for the company. So I think that's very very interesting. I need to hide the poll, and normally we should be back on the slide deck. So it's clear that our research shows very important regional difference, and it will be very interesting to discuss during the Q&A part of this session what is behind these differences in culture, in maturity, in approach of these questions. We see Europe as the exception if you compare with the other region, with a clear high focus on sustainability initiative, more generally on all ESG topic. North America is a little bit surprisingly lagging behind. Most service provider do not have a sustainability requirement for vendors. Moderate employment advancement focus. Again, that's a point which will be very interesting to discuss with Gary in the session later today. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Juanita, who will lead the conversation and the panel discussion with us. I would like, before I do so, to encourage you to use the question box in the control panel to ask questions to the audience. It would be great to get your view on the topic and address any of your remark or questions. So thanks in advance for your participation. And Juanita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vincent. Yeah, that's certainly very interesting results. So if all my colleagues from around the world, Khulud, Rusafi, if you will be so kind to join us now for a quick panel discussion. And Khulud, I'm going to start with you because you're a woman, so we get to do this. So I wanted to just ask you about sort of, you know, the findings from MENA, and I'm going to ask, like, why do you think like the environmental part of the questionnaire is sort of the most visible in the Middle East and North Africa region?
Well, thank you so much, Juanita, for your Vincent, for the introduction and explaining the results of the survey. I want to thank also all the attendees who joined us today, and thank Rusaifi also. First, allow me, Juanita, just to highlight the results of the survey in MENA region. In the survey results in MENA region, we show strong bias towards the environmental part in MENA region, which is a natural outcome of the government or the government policies in the last few years to raise the awareness about the carbon footprint and sustainable development goals. In MENA region, they hosted two big events last year in Egypt, the COP27, and this year the COP28, which will be in UAE in November, to raise more the awareness about the environmental issues and the climate change in the world. If I want to talk about the ECG reporting in general in MENA region, it shows higher understanding of the ECG in the large corporate with telecom operators or vendors, probably influenced by the result of mandatory ECG reporting or lack of it. For example, in Morocco, Jordan, Egypt and UAE, it is mandatory to issue ECG report for all the public listed companies. And in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar and Tunis, the guidelines are existed regarding the ECG report, but it is still voluntary to issue a ECG report. Oman, it is on the way to issue the guidelines regarding the ECG report. For the SMEs, if we want to break down the results more, for the SMEs in general are found lagging behind in terms of reporting the ECG, which is very important to create the high awareness or commitment in employees. However, in my point of view, I see that the ECG growing as rapid speed in the region as more countries are mandating ECG reporting or hosting global events or regional alliances for sustainability. Going back to your question, Juanita, I think that in my view, our region grow up on stories of forests, lakes, rivers that don't exist anymore. And all of this is a result of desertification. I came from Jordan, and I can remember very well how urbanization damaged key natural sites. And I think this story can be found across the region. Another reason is that the water is truly a limited resource in the region, and many places struggled with heat. Some can imagine what climate change and the global warming is in our region, what can do. So people are more concerned about the environmental side of the ECG report more than any more than the social, let's say, or governance. So I guess that's why the region in MENA is focused more on the environmental side.
Yeah, I can add to you, and especially from an Africa point of view, and especially in areas where fiber deployments are relatively new technologies that are being deployed. In a lot of cases, there's very few, initially very few or very little respect for you know, some of the methodologies that are used to deploy infrastructure. And, you know, even in the Africa region, we've had situations where people had complete disregard for where they trenched, how they reinstated, how they acted, you know, in you know, relation to the environment that they found themselves in, which meant and was like a real negative impact on the sector, because it meant that government then clamped down probably harder than we would have liked them to, because they were just trying to stop companies from acting like complete cowboys, you know, and just doing as they please. But what we found was that the larger companies, you know, that had more, you know, that had more funding available, could then employ specific standards and, you know, work plans towards sustainability. It was the smaller companies that came out and that struggled with that. Do you find that the same, you know, in MENA, as I listen to you, it does sound like the bigger companies are putting in a visible effort. And how and when do you think that this will actually filter down to SMMEs, and can governments really measure it?
Yeah, for the SMEs, Juanita, I would say that it will eventually follow with the ECG reporting. Let's say in UAE, the government now, starting from January 2023, it is a mandate to issue ECG report. In Saudi Arabia, it's still encouraging, but it will come or it will grow when we show, or when the SMEs, small SMEs, see it as a beneficial for them, as a differentiator to their customers, like the big companies or big corporate, including the telecom operators and the public sector. So yeah, as you said, in our region also, let's say the GCC countries are more focused on sustainability because of the economic situation there. You know, our region is not stable in so many countries. So I think the GCC countries are more focused on sustainability than others.
Thanks, Khulud. And specifically just to focus on the telecom sector in the MENA region, how do you see the telecom sector adapting to the ESGs?
Well, let's agree that the telecom sector has a significant role to play in terms of the sustainability and reducing the carbon footprint and achieving sustainable goals. It's because fiber optics, it's not only consumes less energy, it's also has a long lifespan in terms of than other technologies, which reduces the amount of waste. So in specific to our case in MENA region, recently we witnessed an MOU was signed by the most major telecom operators in GCC, Etisalat, STC, Du, Zain, Patilco, and Omantel, to join forces to boost ECG awareness and adoption of sustainability goals, which is regional first. I think we with more partnership, with learning, trainings, we can see the Middle East taking more major steps and more major role towards achieving more sustainable and prosperous future. But I would like to focus again, as Vincent mentioned in the presentation, that one more important step for the ICT companies, big companies, is to invest more in deployment of the fiber networks, because as we can see that compared to other broadband technologies, it's more sustainable.
Yeah, there's an old saying that goes something like, if you're not intentionally doing it, you're unintentionally excluding it. So it's got to be a concerted effort. You know, you've got to make a real impact and potentially put your own mandate down as a company to achieve ESGs. Rusafi, let's look a little bit at Asia Pacific. Do you want to give us a little bit more information and just a further explanation on the level of maturity, specifically in the Asia Pacific region, you know, as it was represented in your survey?
Yeah, thank you, Juanita. and thank you to the FCGA for having this webinar. I'd also like to thank all of the attendees today. So regarding the APAC side, though we have received very low number of response from the survey, but based on that, what we see actually APAC is, since APAC is a bit of different scenario kind of thing than the other region. So in our low number of participation, we saw that we have a low percentage of the member companies have ESG or CSR strategy, and high percentage have completed carbon footprint and report. So overall, I can see a bit of varied application in terms of the real case scenario on this topic as of now from the member companies, since there are other challenges in our region, and we have around 52 countries in this region. So, and we have developed nations and developing nations mixed together. So I think the most emerging nations have some other priorities to deploy the infrastructure and other kind of priorities to alleviate some of the uh, poverties from the economy. So based on that, I think for these kind of things, the response was a bit low. But at the same time, for some of the like best like the following companies, I think it is a very good situation for them, as Juanita and Khulud told that for the large scale companies it is much easier for them to practice this kind of good practices. So here this applies in the same situation as well. I think so overall that was the overview from my region.
I have to agree with you. You know, we sort of find that same sort of apathy in sub-Saharan Africa. You know, there's so much still to do that, you know, often, unless you're a multinational or global companies, often ESGs take sort of a back seat and people are focused on deploying infrastructure and navigating, you know, the passages and trying to get it right. But do you think that, you know, over time it'll change in your region? You know, do you think that there are countries that are taking the lead that will implement policies in the APAC region? Have you heard any noises like that there will be a intervention at government level to introduce policies, or do you think that governments have got the same sort of apathy, which is why there's such a small adoption?
Yeah, so in this question, I think I'd say that down the line that will come up definitely, but it will take a bit more time, like at least 5-6 years time, because when actually the developed nations actually start practicing this kind of stuffs, and when they open offices in the emerging nations, so they want to comply with these stuffs also, but since they have other priorities and there are lots of bureaucracy and complications in the government itself, so it becomes a bit delayed automatically. So in terms of that, I think it will come up, but it might take some more time in terms of application.
Yeah, and I speak for the Africa region as well. It's a shame because these emerging economies have got the opportunity to do it right from the start, but it's simply not a priority, which makes things really difficult. But just as a final question to you, maybe, what is the Fibre Network Council, your APAC's work plan regarding sustainability? Is it something that's on the agenda as an association, or do you sort of take the lead from your members?
Yeah, so since actually this webinar was a kind of eye-opener for us as well, so that was really a great opportunity. Comparing region to region, it was definitely a huge blow to us. And I think from now on, we have our upcoming annual conference and some physical events are upcoming, and we will try to make the events theme in a case so that these sustainable word actually gets much priority for them, or maybe we will start some additional special communication channels for these sustainable things also. So I think definitely we will try from our end.
Great, thanks. Thanks. And yeah, as a fellow lagger, I wish you all the best. It's not an easy topic to touch, and you know, sometimes you know, companies squirm and you know, feel like they've got a lot to deal with. But Vincent, I'm going to come to you and sort of ask you the same question. You know, we always are, you know, I think in like regions like Asia Pac and particularly Sub-Saharan Africa. I can speak, you know, to Sub-Saharan Africa. I'm currently in Nairobi in Kenya, and I attended a conference yesterday. I actually chaired the event, and it's interesting how often Africa compares themselves to Europe. And Africa, you know, we often think that we should be more like it, or we could learn, or you know, but there's also a bit of a thing coming out of Africa to saying, you know, African solutions for African problems. And but at the same time, you know, there's still a lot to be learned from Europe. And if I look at your survey results, you know, naturally it's you know, makes some of us hang our heads in shame. Do you want to like give a little bit more input on, you know, the level of maturity that we particularly see in Europe vis-a-vis your ESGs?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do so, Juanita, let me just highlight something for our audience. We have positioned the PDF version of the survey. So the document we produced is available from the handout session of this platform. So just for our audience, if you want to read and get the detailed information about the survey, you can simply download it from the handout section of the panel control you must have on your screen. So yeah, we see a higher level of maturity. I think this is probably cultural for Europe. There are multiple reasons, starting with the population being more sensitive to this question of environment. You know, we've had for decades many political parties where the core focus was ecology. Green parties are in government in multiple coalitions in Europe. So they have clearly, that shows the importance and the impact it has among the population. And it went up to the level of the European Commission. So starting from the EU and down to every European government, there are now clear objectives, clear policy goals, and clear regulation and regulation. So you know that Europe is champion of regulation. We pride ourselves for imposing standard and norms, and clearly when it comes to this topic of ESG, a lot has been done and has created that level of awareness among the population, starting with a cultural and sociological basis, which is probably more sensitive to this question in Europe than anywhere else. We also must say that the pandemic has certainly accelerated that level of awareness. The war in Russia and the consequence in terms of energy crisis has also been a wake-up call just for us to realize that we don't produce much fossil fuel energy here in Europe. We are extremely dependent on imports. Our production of coal, gas, and petrol and oil definitely passed its peak a long time ago. So we know that the more it goes, the less we will be able to extract from European soil in terms of fossil fuel energy. So reducing carbon emission also means reducing our dependency on imports. So the two sides of the coins are connected, and everybody, I think, now really understands that it's not a question of, shall we go in that direction, but only how fast do we go. We really passed the tip point in terms of really understanding and putting that in concrete action. So that's a big, probably big difference due to the culture, due to the history and the physical constraints we are facing.
Yeah, that's really, there's a lot to be proud of, in Europe. I think, like not where we'd like to be, but we're not where we used to be, kind of thing. But as an industry association, obviously sometimes, the market and the members look towards, some form of leadership in this regard, and, putting out statements, or, saying the right things about the efforts that are being applied, with these impressive results. As an association, as a council, the FTTH Council Europe, do you have a specific work plan regarding sustainability and where you think you should be going, targets or otherwise?
Well, first of all, maybe just a comment. I'm very happy that you see Europe as a leader, but I would say that when we look at our situation, when we look at how early we had all the information to indicate the issue linked to climate change, we could say also that we are very late compared to the level of information and the capacity we had and the structure we had. So I don't think we are necessarily an example to follow, and we shouldn't see as being in any way better than others. We could have gone much faster with the level of awareness we had of this issue, and we have a difficulty of our own from that regard. What is very clear as far as the FTTH Council is concerned is that we have seen a shift during the last 2-3 years, whereby our members, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, were considering ESG as a nice to have, maybe something of the nature of a communication tool, a little bit of greenwashing. It looks very nice on annual reports, but we don't want that to cost too much. That has definitely changed. Now it's really something which is super high on the agenda in boardrooms. CEOs are, assessed on their capacity to concretely move the needle in the right direction when it comes to ESG, and it's no longer talking, it's really doing, and we really see that change taking place. So we have a sustainability committee focusing on these questions. One side of the action is to use the benefits of fiber and to emphasize the benefits of fiber when it comes to sustainability, and to what extent fiber is the right choice if we want to have a direct impact for our industry, but an indirect impact for the rest of the society, using all the benefits of high-speed connectivity to generate application which overall reduce carbon footprint. The second side of the coin is, as an industry, we are developing a program to help our members from the entire value chain, from manufacturers to operators, investors, and the entire ecosystem around fiber, to measure carbon footprint in a very concrete way. So we apply an international standard. We work with a consultant. We are putting together a member of the FTTH Council to use the same methodology to measure carbon footprint. And as you know, in terms of carbon footprint of an organization, what matters the most is what is called scope 3, which is the indirect consequence of your activity in terms of carbon footprint. So by putting together the entire value chain, we give the possibility to companies which are intertwined in the ecosystem to exchange good understanding of their respective carbon footprint and increase in terms of accuracy the quality of their own reporting on carbon footprint. So that's a huge effort we are starting. Ultimately, once that is put in place, it would help us measure the progresses and also develop a communication around best practices to encourage everyone in our organization to go in the right direction. So that's really the plan we are putting in place.
Thanks, Vincent. You just had your annual conference, and I just need to congratulate you. Phenomenal event. It's really interesting, and we always like buy from your event with our eyes to learn how to do these things. But was there a conscious decision to make sustainability a key theme at the event, and did it surface as a theme during the conference?
I think we actually passed that point. There are sessions on sustainability, but what is even more interesting is that sustainability is embedded in every single discussion. So there is not a discussion on public policy, a discussion on operator strategy and FTTH challenges, a discussion on investment where sustainability is not surfacing and one of the key issues. So investors are questioning very technical regulatory issue about the taxonomy and why is FTTH not yet identified as a green investment. That's a key concern for investors. Operators and large operators all communicate about improvement they're making in their trajectory towards carbon neutrality. I would say only the smaller operator, some of the smaller operators do not have a very clear communication on that. And every vendor is presenting concrete solution in terms of product, in terms of architecture, trying to show how they reduce the carbon footprint of their products. So it's everywhere. It's for vendor, it becomes a clear differentiator, an area of innovation. But for everyone in the value chain, this is a topic which we see as being part of every single discussion. So it's a theme, but it becomes something which interfere with every side of the discussion we're having at the conference.
Thanks, Vincent. I can't see the chat box, so I don't know if there's any questions or comments that
I have not seen any question, and if you, maybe I renew the invitation to the audience to ask any question if you wish. I'll be happy to relay that to you, Juanita.
Thanks, but otherwise, this is really interesting, and thank you again for taking the lead on helping us develop this between yourselves and North America. I think you did most of the heavy lifting. I think I'm going to move to some closing comments from all of our guests today, Khulud, Vincent, and Rusafi. If there's just a closing comment that you want to make around sustainability, what that sort of means to you in your region, and what sort of effort you think should be applied.
Well, allow me to start, Juanita. I think in MENA region, I do believe that there is a lot to be done in terms of sustainability. We need more trainings, we need more workshops, we need the companies, the big companies and the SMEs to make sure that their employees are aware of the ESG, to make sure that everybody knows what sustainability is, to apply those criteria in their work. And we need to promote more, I guess, for sustainability, and to work more to maybe promote for fiber also more as a sustainable tool, or as the most sustainable tool, especially in the big cities that are coming up now, the smart cities that are coming up here in MENA region. So I think a lot has to be done, but I believe we are on the track.
Rusafi, Khulud just touched on something in closing that I think is so important, and I know that Asia Pac, Sub-Saharan Africa, we struggle with this, is skills, the knowledge, do we really understand sustainability? Is the skill there, is the knowledge there to move the lever on sustainability?
Yeah, thank you, Juanita. Yeah, so it is really a shame that though we are the leader of the fiber deployment across the globe, and also most of the fiber actually produced in Asia Pacific region, but still actually we couldn't actually follow the best practices of deploying the fiber network, fiber infrastructure. And it's really very unfortunate for us, but definitely here comes the same as Khulud told, that a lot to be done, and that's what we are trying here, to actually bridge the gap, to bring together the big and small companies in a single umbrella, to share and exchange information, and to actually apply those in real scenario. So that's what we are doing. I think hope in the coming days we will be definitely see some light. Thank you for
Thanks, and thanks for your time as well today, Rusafi. Vincent, closing comments from your side?
Well, I mean, you mentioned that Europe is ahead, but I think it's just a normal thing for Europe to do, because at the end of the day, we were the one originally responsible for that level of carbon emission and pollution starting in the 19th century. And if you look at the cumulative impact of Europe industry and emission, we are probably the biggest cause of this climate change crisis. So yeah, we should continue, maybe lead and by example, and take our responsibility, because clearly we are responsible for that situation to a large extent, certainly much more than some of the country, Rusafi, you mentioned, in being still struggling to develop and get out of poverty. So it's absolutely essential that we continue. I think people in Europe are increasingly conscious of that challenge and working on it, but still a long way to go. And as far as we are concerned, in our position of council, I think we have a unique opportunity to really move the needle in the right direction. Our technology is in itself a part of the solution for telecom network, and by providing the best-in-class telecom infrastructure, we can also help our society adapt to a level of organization which maintain a minimum of prosperity while addressing the direct challenges of climate change. So I think it's an exciting place to be able to have a very positive impact on our environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's amazing how you're willing to take that responsibility on and to face it head on. And I trust that the other regions can catch up as well, or just, Rusafi, do things differently from the very beginning. Create that awareness now and say, let's fix it before we break it. So yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody for joining me today. Thank you, colleagues. It's always nice to spend some time with my FCGA colleagues. I always say to my people, this is my team. this is the people that I work with. But yeah, it's been great to spend this morning with you. Thank you for your time. I know, Vincent, you mentioned that it will be available, as we say in Nairobi, or in Swahili, kwaheri, which means goodbye. Have a wonderful day. Vincent, I don't know if you want to just thank the audience as the chairman of the FCGA.
No, thank you. We expect additional initiative from the FCGA in the months to come. We keep on leveraging the benefit of sharing the variety of experience we have around the globe. As you said in the introduction, Juanita, there is a 5 p.m. CET session for those who are in that time zone, and I think that time slot has been socialized to the region concerned by by this webinar. So thank you very much. And I think the replay will be available from the different websites of our organizations.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
Okay.